Hey everybody, this is Out of Character. I'm your host, Defaulty GM, and today is the second episode of Out of Character Talk. Um, and today I want to talk to you guys, or the topic that we're going to be doing today is how I see the role of the player and the GM. Um, so I'm not sure if I ever talked about this, but if you look on the internet, there are tons of different articles. There's even a Wikipedia page based on the role of a GM. There is no actual documentation about the role of a player. I actually, a long time ago, I wanted to do a video on this topic, and it was like this huge thing, and I did a lot of research on it. The hardest thing to do is to find what the role of the player is. It's very easy to find what the role of the GM is because it's very well documented. It's in almost every book will have a section that describes what the role of the GM is, what they do. Like, I have a Dungeons Master's guide, which is literally about it. And the player's handbook is just the rules that are needed for the players to play the game. It doesn't necessarily tell the players what their role inside of the game is. So today, I just want to talk about my personal opinion about what the role between the player and the GM is, and the way I perceive it. And again, this is just my opinion. This is how I personally see it. It's not like this is the thing. It's just this is my opinion. So I hope you guys can respect it as such. And with all of that said, let's dive straight into it. All right. So the way that I think about it, and I thought about this the other day, is that I kind of consider the GM to be the host. And what I mean by that is, I mean a host in the most traditional sense. You invite your friends over, and your job is to make sure that they have a good time. You provide food, you provide drinks, you provide some kind of game or entertainment. Your goal is that you invited some people over so that you all together could have a good time together. And the role of the players is as the guest. Now, you might think that the guests don't really have a role inside of that relationship, but the role of the guest is to make sure that the host is entertained and also to respect the host's place or, wherever they're going. So if you're going out and the person that has invited you as the guest, your job is to obviously not disrespect them outside or to embarrass them, things like that, which isn't necessarily a huge thing inside of Dungeons and Dragons or any other role playing game. But the reason I think this is interesting and I wanted to share this with you guys is because when you take that concept and you put it into Dungeons and Dragons, it kind of melts a lot of what other people think a GM is responsible for. Because if you go out there, you see that the GM is like the manager, the director, the writer, so on and so forth. But I don't feel like a GM is the director. I don't feel like the GM controls the players and the players are the actors because that kind of relationship implies that the GM needs to uh, that the players need to jump at all the GM's whims, right? Where I feel like the most fun games I've had is where the GM has some kind of direction, right? It's just like a host. You have some kind of plan, a way to keep your players entertained, but the idea is that you want everyone to have fun. You have their best interests in mind. So it's not just about your needs, it's mostly about them having fun and you creating an atmosphere that allows them to have the most fun they can have. And as the players, you're trying to do the same thing. So you're trying to have the GM have the most fun that he can have while also trying to respect the amount of work that he's put into it. So, when the GM is talking, maybe you don't talk over him. You just show the basic respect for him setting this up for you guys. And again, that's just my opinion on what the role of the GM is. It's not really like this grand thing or a much bigger thing. It's a pretty simple concept. But I feel like if you take that concept, and for those who maybe have thought about this, I'd be curious to know what you guys think. Um, but if you take that concept as the GM is just the host and the players are just the guests, um, I feel like you'll have a much more pleasant game because as a GM, you'll lose all that pressure of responsibility, right? Like all you're there for is to just make sure everybody has a good time. You're not there to create this like crazy intense story because you guys will all do that together. Um, you are just there to make sure that while you guys are playing, everybody feels like they're having a great time. So you create some cool NPCs, cool encounters, things like that that make everyone have a good time. But you also have to remember that when you're playing as the players, you don't want those encounters to just end because you want to respect the amount of work that the GM has put in, but you also want to create situations in which the GM can have fun with his encounters. So if you find a way and you can tell that in a meta sense that the GM has kind of created this huge encounter, but you figured out a way to just blow it up, maybe take a second and go, how fun would that be for the GM, right? If I just blow up this whole thing with like all this TNT that he forgot we had saved up, how much fun would that be? Um, I think a really good example of this is like just thinking about it off the top of my head. I remember there was an episode of Barker's game, and James had this ability where he could speak to the dead, and they were pretty much doing a murder mystery. But James decided not to use that or even really talk about it and play it out because he wanted it. In my opinion, he wanted Barker to have the most fun. Barker had set up this huge thing, and everybody was having fun. So James, as the guest, respected the work that he put into it, and just allowed it to play out, despite the fact that he could have ended it a bit early. Um, I just think that that's kind of the mindset that players and GM should have. I know I probably said this like 100 times, but it's just having fun. What can I do to make everyone else have the most amount of fun? And just be wary of, just taking away fun from people by doing something that you didn't necessarily need to do. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. What do you guys think is the role of the GM and the role of the players? And what do you think about the players being guests and the GM being the host? Let me know what you guys think. Have a great day.